Hello everyone, welcome along to our Hangout on Air, live on air tonight. This is our first one where we've got a couple of people that are watching Stuart Mannins and myself having a dialogue, a bit of an introduction to this concept of live on air with Hangouts. And yeah, I've got a few butterflies because who knows whether everything will work in the way that I hope it will work as far as the technology goes. I've been practicing a bit during the week with Stuart as well as my daughters, so I'm sort of hopeful, not 100% confident, but hopeful that we have a really good introduction to the power and the reach of live on air Hangouts and also video Hangouts. Now, you have an ability to ask questions and it may take some time before I actually see those questions appear. And if there were a lot of people asking questions, then I won't be able to deal with them all. We're anticipating about 20 minutes as our first live on air hangout. But if there are one or two that I can answer, I will highlight them. So as we're going along, please feel free to ask a question, but don't feel offended if it doesn't get answered or doesn't get highlighted. It will take at least 2 or 3 minutes before I see the question appear. Well, welcome along to you, Stuart, this evening.
Thanks, David. It's good to be here.
I'm going to invite you to explore with me the concept of Hangouts on air. And in order to do that, we've got a series of questions. So just bear with me while I share my screen, and I'll disappear from view, and instead there'll be this screen share with tonight's questions. Would you like to take us through them, please, Stuart?
Well, I'll start with a comment on my response to them, and that's I'm pleased to see them there because I need the answers to these. You know, there are a number of us who want to support you, David, but we're not, because of age or because we lack some kind of IT expertise, we lack the understanding of certain terms. It's like a new language. And the first one you've got down here is explain what events are. I think it would be excellent if you explained what events are to me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stuart. I think that's a really important thing that we do need to make sure that people do understand the terms. So the term event really refers to something that happens in YouTube and Google+. Now, the easy way of explaining it, you'll see on the graphic that there are two separate static screenshots. And the first one, the one on the top, is when you're in the night school classroom. And it will say that there are a number of scheduled events for night school during August, September, October 2015. Each one of these events takes you to a specific web page, and you access the event from the night school. Now, I just want to stick with why we have located the events in night school, because these events are going out on air. They can go out to the whole of the internet. In fact, if I make them public events, which we will be doing as we become more familiar with them. So an event goes out, it streams out to the World Wide Web, but it's also being recorded in YouTube. So if you wanted to come back and catch up and say, oh, I'd like to look at what Stuart or Fred or Mary said about a particular thing, going to that event page will open up the YouTube recording of what we've done. So an event is something that is streaming out from our night school page. So if you follow the dotted line down and you clicked on the link, it would take you to where you came in tonight, and you'll be able to see there that you can click on the button that says join them or watch the meeting. I'm not sure what it says as a participant, but right now there will be a number of folk that are watching our dialogue together in that area of Google. And if you follow the dotted line across to the very right-hand column, when you're on that events page, anyone that has a Google Plus can also start a Google Hangout. Now, here's the key difference of the terms. The event is the thing that's happening on the page. A live on-air Hangout is where you have people watching and perhaps recording questions for later discussion. A video conference or a normal Hangout is something that is not recorded. You can have up to 10 people. They just click on the link and they're taken into that particular room, the Hangout room, and it's just like an Adobe Connect meeting. So that's where we are with those terms. Do you need any further explanation in there, Stuart?
I'm sure that's a very clear explanation. It'll only mean something in practice to me until I can actually see the page you're talking about and can do these things and see the effect of doing them.
Right.
Now, I know
and the reason, Stuart, that you can't see that is because you're not a viewer of the event. You're actually in the live on-air meeting room. So you're being broadcast. So that's the key difference. Okay, let me just stop my screen share for a moment and just bear with me. Here we are. I should be back broadcasting. And I haven't seen any audience submitting any questions yet. So it's possible there's a technical difficulty there. I know that there are 4 people watching this event. So if you can find, there should be a little toggle button that says you can, a little blue button Q&A, and you should be able to toggle it on and record your questions. Have a go at it, and we'll see whether we pick up any as we proceed. So I'm going to now come back, and we're going to go back over to Stuart. Stuart, what I want to do now is move to the next question. So just bear with me while I bring up the PDF. One moment. And here we go. Just bringing the screen share up. Here we are. So the next question, over to you, Stuart.
Well, I like this. It's a very personal one. And you've got what's in it for us. I would rephrase that and say, what's in it for me, David?
Yeah. Well, I guess there's fame and fortune for anyone that gets to broadcast live on air, because I wouldn't say the world is watching, but at least 4 people are watching, and I suspect that a lot more people will watch the broadcast when it's recorded and sitting in the night school for future use. But why would we use this particular method? Well, it's a very powerful interaction tool. And let's just look at the live on air to begin with, and then we'll go to video hangouts. Live on air, you can highlight your congregational activities or your group activities within the congregation. For example, in the Waiaki congregation, we have Professor Mark Orams, who's both an international sailor and an international educator, but in particular, Mark has an interest in ecology and a Christian perspective on ecology. So I've asked Mark to come in to a live on air, and we'll talk for 20-25 minutes about a Christian ecology and why that's so important today. So the first point I want to highlight is that with live on air, you can take someone from your congregation or a group within the congregation and actually record for the congregation's benefit and perhaps the wider church their insights and their activities. Second thing you can do in live on air is that we can ask leaders about important issues and record their responses for the future. What I'm thinking of here is, in the modern church, we have these fantastic communication tools available, but we very rarely see a video address by, for example, a president or vice president of conference. We very rarely see video presentations by the various connectional leaders, let alone I think many ministers and lay preachers could be asked for their views, and we recorded them and shared them and distributed them. With live on air, every time we broadcast on air, we have the ability to record that and build up an on-demand video library for our context, and we can share it. So those are the benefits of live on air. Now, for those of you that are watching, you may not be aware that I've got Stuart. Well, you will be aware that I've got Stuart in the room with me, but you may not be aware that I could put 3, 4, 5 more people in, so we could actually have an extended panel discussion and still be recorded. So live on air is a very powerful tool, primarily because you can invite the whole connection to watch and respond. The second thing that you benefit is not through live on air, but just through video hangouts. Now, if you went outside of night school into some of the other 6 senses groups like effective leadership, practical theological reflection, you'll see that I've put a link up that enables a video hangout. It's in my video hangout, so if you want to do this, you can quite easily embed links within your own pages. So you can have people, you send an email out and say, hey, let's have a video hangout. We can put up to 10 people in that, and that promotes your group social learning. Video hangouts aren't recorded, so the social learning is more like face-to-face talking. Live on air is recorded, so it's a bit more formal and a bit more organized. Believe it or not, you can also use an event page with no video, but just have ongoing chats. I'll talk about those subsequently. So what's in it for you, Stuart? It's the ability for you to be able to participate, to ask questions, to offer your own opinions, and to have a chance for dialogue for mutually modifying each other's ideas. So I hope that that's a full explanation of what we can do, how you can benefit, and indeed how the whole church can benefit from this particular method.
Thanks, David. That's a very comprehensive answer, and it makes so much sense to me because I've been involved in this kind of communication outside the church and seen it working. I mean, we can download TED talks. The rest of the world is using this method of communication very, very successfully. So it makes perfect sense that the church should at least match that kind of excellence in communication. The next question I would say is, I'm convinced about those things. How exactly do we use them?
Okay, that's a pretty good question. Let me just see if I can bring this up again. And here we are. We're back at my sharing the my screen, and I'll move on to your question. How do we use them? Well, I think in the beginning, the average person viewing this, yourself included, really wouldn't know how to use them. This is pretty cutting edge technology. Google Hangouts have been around for, or video calls have been around for a couple of years. They're not widely used. Skype for a while was more widely used, but everything that Google does, they do extremely well, and they refine their products and so on and so forth. But the average person that's viewing hasn't the time nor the technical know-how to get involved. They would like to be able to offer their opinion. They would like to be able to put it out there in terms of the video group discussion, but goodness, they don't want to go through a complex learning curve to be able to do that. I would hope that some of my colleagues in ministry, particularly the younger ones, would learn about the Google Plus event page and some of the other Google apps, because they then have the tool to be able to use in their own contexts. A question that I think makes it very simple and straightforward to use is that I've integrated it into our 6senses website. So that means if you don't want to learn how to use these for yourselves on your own 6senses pages, you can certainly participate and are encouraged to participate in other people's pages where the links exist. So just take a concrete example, Stuart. With any luck, Rill Beggs will be watching this, and Rill did practical theological reflection. So if she went back into the PTR room, she'd find that she could click a link that would take her to video hangouts. And there we might have 5 or 6 people interacting around some particular issue that emerged from practical theological reflection a couple of years after she did the course. So it's ongoing professional development, and it's made easy just by clicking a couple of links, or just by clicking a link rather, in 6senses. 6senses curates content from a great variety of resources, and it puts it into one attractive package. It keeps the Methodist Church of New Zealand together in a social learning environment. Now, I can't emphasize enough, I never bothered with Facebook until just recently, where I needed to start promoting 6senses, because 6senses has an ability to draw from Facebook, from Twitter, from LinkedIn, from Google Plus, from YouTube. It puts all of these things together, and if you just used Facebook alone, or just use Google Plus alone, or just use LinkedIn, well, you could use all of those things and you would spend days trying to master all the social media. 6senses places it as curated content with an outreach to so many parts of New Zealand Methodism. For example, Stuart, one of the things that I've been really working on, and I think everyone will recognize this, has been through the year with John Wesley. And that through the year actually draws bits and pieces together from very diverse sources and starts to put other people that have done Methodist studies, such as yourself, such as Kolatau, and a number of others. Their content is slowly appearing in through the year with John Wesley. It'll take a whole year to build up all of the resources. Now, the Methodist Church is currently sponsoring until May next year, or the end of April, I should say, next year, the 6senses pages. It did belong to Trinity College. For whatever reasons, they decide they aren't using it. And so what do you do when you've got 300 people who've got curated content? It was like a godsend opportunity in some ways that we were able to draw 6senses apart from Trinity College so that the whole of the connection could start to use it in ways that were relevant to them. So we've got video resourcing on demand. That's our live on air broadcasts. We've got social interaction and social learning at the click of a button. You just have to find the right room to begin with. Or if you're a presbyter, just for example, say Nettie is possibly watching this, Simon Williams is watching this, Margaret Smith is watching this. Simon's saying he's got no questions directly for answering, and Margaret saying she doesn't have anything to ask at present. But supposing they did have a burning question to ask, they have access to a leader. So that's the video side of it. What are some of the other things that you can see happening? Well, we've got artists like Joan O'Connor started to put their work up. Now, I was talking to Joan face to face just this last few days, and if you go to Joan's pages, go to a profile, find her pages, they're shared across the 6senses website, you'll see that she's got some of her paintings up there in the pages. She just had an exhibition. She's going to write this up and put it into 6senses. One of those paintings, Joan just sold for $1,000. You've got people like Anne Pritchard, who doesn't want to be part of the video resourcing, but is a very skilled presenter of her, I would say, their spiritual reflection journals. If you go on to the 6senses news page, you'll see that I've been putting forward some thoughts for the day. That's if you click into that, you'll see all of the thoughts that are there. Those are just another method of enabling others to see that they too could have a daily journal of reflection. Call it a blog if you like. You can blog from your Google Blogger site and put the RSS feed directly into pages here. There's links to musicians now. I could spend 20 minutes and will spend 20 minutes talking about the whole badging thing. This is just starting to get going. So there's a ton of uses for 6senses, and part of the resourcing of 6senses is this new form of doing videos. Now, I've given as full an answer as I possibly can on that, Stuart. Is there anything further that you wanted to ask?
You have. You've covered the last question about integrating into 6senses very well. But seeing that there have been no questions from people, I wonder if we could move towards finishing this by... My feeling is that what you've said is so important and so new that I would like you to take perhaps 3 or 4 of the points you've just made, the most important ones that you see allowing something to happen that hasn't been happening well. What would those few points be in summary?
Well, number one, we have in 6senses a whole suite of resources that people can use for communicating the gospel.
Good.
They can do it in such a variety of ways. Number two, there are people who do use 6senses, primarily myself, but some others as well, who are very skilled at putting together pages in 6senses. I see both Simon and Margaret who said, oh, we don't have any questions, but nevertheless, both of those people, people like Lavinia, Dorothy Willis, there's a group of 20, 25 people who can do marvelous things and show others how to become involved with the curating of that content that they've already created. In fact, Dorothy, I've just got a question that's come through from you. Has there been personal dollar costs to me in setting all these things up? Well, the short answer to that, Dorothy, is yes, there has been some personal dollar costs, but it's something that I've really enjoyed doing, and most of those dollar costs have been around the YouTube activities and through the year with John Wesley. So I'm not particularly worried about that. I'm extremely grateful that the General Secretary of the Church has made that financial resource available when Trinity College withdrew it for their purposes. I think they do something else on a Sunday evening now, so that's good. I think the more things that are going on, the better. So to come back to Stuart's point, the main thing is all of this exists for the transmission of the gospel, the good news. But the second point is the good news, as John Wesley would say, is transmitted through people that are committed to living, learning, growing, sharing with one another. After all, what is a Google Hangout? What is a live on air except a kind of 21st century class meeting where we discuss what we're doing, we see how it makes faith more relevant and real, and we can critique one another in a really helpful, friendly way. So those are my 2 points, Stuart.
And I'm glad you stopped there, because I wanted that to be more concise than the rest of your contributions. And you've narrowed it down to 2 very, very important things. I leave you with one challenge, David. What happens next week?
Well, next week, Stuart, it's you and I want to bring in one more so that we've got a panel of 3 to start talking about preaching for the 21st century. What are some of the tips and techniques that we can use? So I'll be going to Dorothy, Simon, Margaret, and anyone else that might have been watching that hasn't put a question in, and asking them directly, what are some of the things that you want to learn about preaching? Now, I don't mean that you've got to preach in 6 senses or with YouTube. What I mean is, what are the new techniques that we can use that we take into our Sunday by Sunday worship events? But we will also explore the wider thing. So that's it in a nutshell, Stuart. Preaching for the 21st century.
I look forward to it.
Thank you, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining us in this inaugural, slightly wider live on air. I will stop the broadcast in a few seconds. It will take YouTube about a half an hour, possibly longer, to process it. I might need to do a little bit of editing on YouTube with it, but certainly if you come back into night school, and go to enter the night school classroom page tomorrow and click on it, you'll find, I hope, that everything has been recorded along with questions. Now, I'll cut off at that point and say thank you very much. Blessings on everyone.